Alright guys, we're back at it again for one game a day. I am Joe Delicious, aka Hot Dog.
Chris?
Yeah, we have Chris.
Ray.
And we have Ray.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a recording on Metal Slug, or Metal Gear Slug 3.
Metal Gear Solid 3.
Solid 3.
You know, if you called yourself Gun, would have a really good name combo here, because there's a YouTuber called Chris Ray Gun.
Chris Ray Gun.
Right.
Yeah, okay. I can be called Gun.
Yeah.
Yes. I will be called Gun from now. Bang. Yeah, we did a recording on the Metal Gear Slug 3.
Metal Gear Solid 3, you'll get there.
Yes. And it didn't work out. The sound quality was very, very bad.
Yeah, that one's rough.
And we spoke about that. Have you played that game, Ray? Do you know much about that game?
Mm-mm.
Alright, then it might not make that much sense.
I know like the lore behind it, but I've never played it.
Right. But the reason we talked about it is because we wanted to know, well, I wanted to know what was a game that had a very good story. And I asked you, what is the best story within a game that you know?
I don't know about best, but...
Oh, sorry.
I think... It's maybe good to clarify. No, Metal Gear Solid 3 is specifically the one we're talking about, which is totally within, like, there's very little nonsense in 3.
It's Hideo Kojima.
Not 3. 3 is where he's, like, super reined in.
Wow, okay.
He went from, like, 1 to a bit of craziness, 2 to quite a bit of more craziness. 3 is, like, it's set in the 60s, we're pulling all that stuff back. There's no nano machines.
Is 3 the one with Big Boss? Or?
Yeah.
Alright.
But, so to your question, there's effectively 2 ways you can answer that, right? I think Metal Gear Solid 3 has an excellent story, and I think it's excellently told for a traditional story. But it does not use the medium of a video game effectively at all.
Yes, because then when I asked you why was it good, you said, well, the ending was very good. The last 10 minutes was very good. It made me cry.
Yeah, it recontextualizes things. It works as a very traditional story that you'd see in a movie or something like that. It does not use it's a video game as a medium.
Totally correct. And in hindsight, I thought back about it, and I was like, man, Byron really, thought that was a great story. But I asked you, if the last 10 minutes were removed, would you still think that was a great story? You go, no, that would be still a pretty decent game, but...
It'd be a good story, it just wouldn't be as memorable.
Yes. So it's very, very interesting how you can play for like 20, 30, 1,000 hours, or however many hours you played, and that last 10 minutes was really the defining sort of moments that elevated a game from good to great, which is fine. Sometimes it's just in anything, in like a film or in a story or in in music, it's just like those 1-2 moments that make it memorable. But it's very interesting that it's at the very, very end, and I suppose if people didn't play to the very, very end, they would have never known how good of a story that is. Am I right?
That's true, but if people didn't play to the end, I don't think they have the right to have much of an opinion on it.
Right.
It's like if you didn't watch all of a movie,
yes,
you can say you didn't like it, but it's hard to give it final judgment.
Right.
I walked out of...
But you haven't lived your life in full yet. You shouldn't make much of a judgment of your likes and dislikes.
But like, I've walked out of movies because I'm not having a good time.
Yes.
But I wouldn't say that I have the right to fully judge that movie. I can say that I didn't like it, I didn't finish it.
Sometimes it's very, very difficult to judge a movie. I mean, to finish watching a shitty movie.
Yeah, that's fine. Then stop watching it. I totally advocate that if you're not having a good time in that movie, even if you paid for it, just walk the fuck out. Who cares?
Okay. So that's one thing we can talk about. Metal Gear Solid 3. Metal Gear Solid. We have Metal Gear Solid 3. Snake Eater. Snake Eater. It's about a guy called Snake. Pretends to be dumb, but it's actually very, very intelligent.
He doesn't pretend to be dumb. He just has like a certain daftness to him. Yeah,
and he eats glow in the worm. Worms that shit. Worms that shit light. And there is some type of gimmick in that, right? Like you guys call it Easter egg or whatever the fuck it is it? Where like
it just recharges your batteries for no reason.
Yes, even though.
Yes. What's that thing called when you like where you believe something to be true, so it sort of happens? There's a term for this, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, that's one thing. The other thing that I spoke about with Ray was what do we speak? Oh yes, you today walked into the office and you said, I listened to the podcast that you had with Ray yesterday, and you were yelling at Ray, which is my brother, and that was very, very scary. And I went to you and I said, that was super exciting because finally there's some excitement going on. Like I listened to it as well, and I thought, damn, that's entertaining. So,
I didn't say it was scary.
All right.
Nor did I think it was entertaining.
Right.
I couldn't follow along for most of it.
Right.
And I started to phase out, but at the end I started just...
But that is how I feel. When you said that, that is how I feel, or I felt,
absolutely.
When you went to Ray and said, Tetris is a fucking 10. And you said, 7, 8, like, pick a number, goddammit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is 7 to 10 if you couldn't rate something?
Exactly. So I think so now we've all brought a bit of passion into this. I don't know what the fuck we're doing. So, anyways, so yesterday I forgot what we were talking about, right? But we got into a heated argument. Oh yeah, Genshin and the gacha. Oh, you wrote notes again. Very good. We won't go through it. But yes, the gacha system and how it's wasting people's money.
Yeah, it's a very short notes this time.
Okay. Just let everyone know, Byron wrote notes. Byron, can you read through your notes, please, and let us? Oh, we can.
Sure.
Yeah. Now we have a
very
discussion.
Oh, this is the wrong one.
Yes. You wrote notes on something else as well.
No, that's just the second page.
Okay.
We got the first page first.
Right. This is a novel.
So, no, it's really simple. You keep getting into this explanation as to why you think it's like the one-child policy with China and how you're...
Yeah.
And I think you're taking this with like a... like you're trying to do like a literary analysis on this game.
Yes, I am.
And it's really not going to work
because
it's really much simpler. It's because it's a video game is what I've written down here. And that's what it is.
Yes.
Like I said to Ray earlier, there is deeper meaning. Developers do have conversations on why they want things to be the way that they are. I used World of Warcraft as an example where very early on in development they would talk about if you started as a certain race, they wanted you to start in this place because it had this kind of an environment. They wanted the players to feel like this.
Yes.
They do go into like that kind of thought process. Some developers do.
Yes.
Good developers do.
Yes.
And Genshin might have done that. But they didn't do that. What they said was we need a narrative thrust that we can use to push players into this world. Because if you put me in that world, I don't need that narrative thrust. I can just go. But some players need a story to pull them along. And so for those players, they need that narrative direction.
Yeah. But that's the question I'm asking. Why this particular narrative
it's just common tropes.
Right. So there's another another game that has this trope, which is you're looking for your lost
I think
sister?
in like anime or video games that looking for a lost brother or sister is very, very common.
Right.
You mentioned like video games and stories, and I think at one point I've mentioned Nier, which I think uses the video game medium effectively because it's a story that can only be told in a game. It's something like that.
Right.
But the story in Japan was you're a brother and you're looking for your sister.
Okay.
That would be Replicant.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. In the West, it was changed.
Probably be a bit loud.
Yeah. In the West, it was changed to be a father looking for your daughter.
Alright, I know which game is that we're talking about now. That was debatable change.
It was a much better change. Everyone that has played both versions of the game, especially, but if you played the father version, the father looking for the daughter version, it's a better version of the game. There's a couple of things that don't make sense in the narrative.
Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yes.
That has its issues, but if you ignore that stuff, it doesn't matter.
If you ignore that stuff, that doesn't matter.
It's the story of the father looking for his daughter is a more compelling story. It makes a bit more sense.
Than a brother looking for it.
It's just the brother looking for her sister. Even when that came out, this game's about 10 years old. Was a tired trope. Like looking for your sibling is a tired anime trope, I think.
But a father looking for his daughter
how
many
games have you played where you are 45 years old?
I'm thinking of movies right now, and the most recent trend of like having like some sort of like hitman father
Yeah.
looking for the daughter.
Yeah.
The daughter's in trouble for
That's-
some reason.
That's very common these days. Like
Yes.
sad dad is a thing in movies at the moment. But but like in games, it's still untouched.
Okay.
Plenty of games like Final Fantasy 12, which is fucking like 15 years old or something.
Mm-hmm.
That game changed its protagonist because its protagonist was a 40-year-old guy, and instead they said
12.
Yeah, and they said Bosch was the original protagonist.
Really?
Yes, and they said very late into development, Square Enix came in and said, you can't have an old man character as the main character. Sorry, I'm listening. You can't have an old man character as the main character. You need someone hot. You need someone young with his shirt open. Probably no shirt is ideal. That's what we're really going for here, and that's your protagonist. And that's what they did.
That is what they did.
It's just
I've
like,
been trying to get ourselves out of a conversation about scantily clad stuff, and we're walking right into this trap.
that's okay. They added a scantily clad female for the guys too.
Right.
But they changed the protagonist because you didn't want... It's like, it was a controversy when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out because you played the character... You didn't play the character from 3 because that was set in the 60s. You played the character from 1 and 2. But he's a clone of the character from the 60s.
You don't know that till the end.
You know that at the end of 1. Anyway, they say that he aged quickly, and so by the time you get to 4, even though 2 is only, it's like 10 years later or something like that, he's like meant to be like 65 or something like that.
Right.
And people lost their shit because you were playing as an old, like you took the hero of our games and you turned him into an old man. Like having back pain is a mechanic in that game. Like if you crouch for too long in this stealth game, he'll like start stretching out and like hammering into his back because it hurts. You can take drugs to try and relieve the tension.
That's pretty funny.
It's like, it's very, very uncommon. So I think that was a more compelling story.
Okay.
Just to total near side tangent there. I think it was just a bit more interesting. Yes, it creates some problems with some of the other characters.
Do you think games are appealing to old people or older people? Like, because it's very interesting that you talk about how these characters essentially need to be young for it to be appealing. Because I'm guessing the players are young.
But there's also a growing, like, there's an aging demographic.
Yeah,
of...
it is an aging demographic, especially if you want to appeal to the people that have money. But even then, I'd say that the people that have money, they want to see young people on the screen. That's just a part of culture. Who do you put in your movie? Do you put the old man and the old lady,
but Liam
or do you put the
Neeson,
young couple?
Yeah, I understand. Like, I'm totally fucking confused about this as well. I see old people in film as well, but I guess I'm getting older, and it does feel strange for me to relate to like young 18-year-olds.
Well, are you looking for self-representation in these films or games though? You're not, but I'm sure that
it's
people
very
are though.
Some people do.
It's like, if you don't, but that's what I'm trying to get at. Like, why do these tropes matter? These tropes matter because as soon as you enter into the game, you feel like there's something relatable. There's relatability, right? Like a brother or sister being lost. And relatability is super important. Like, if I'm an old guy and, I want to play a game, I want to be able to go in and potentially find something relatable like an old character. That's probably the reason why when young people play games, there's all these, like, young people shit that I don't fucking understand.
Some people need someone that they can relate to. Like, there's plenty of people that... when Tomb Raider was rebooted in 2012, the video game franchise, there were people that just said, I don't want to play this, I don't want to play as a female character. Even, like, 2012 is, like, getting along as far as, like, progressiveness and how long things have been around, but you've still got people saying, I'm not going to buy this game, I'm not going to play it, because I don't want to play as a girl.
Is that a guy saying that or a girl saying that?
It's guys saying that.
Right.
Though it could effectively be anyone saying it, really.
Right.
But...
Yeah,
but
so relatability of a character matters.
That was the
to
thing.
The
It mattered. I think most people, it doesn't matter. Like, it's important to have, when it comes to, like, on-screen, there's a different argument when it comes to, like, on-screen representation.
Yes.
As to, like, genders, ethnicities, etc.
Yes.
But I think that's...
But then how the fuck does one find relatability with, like, King Kong or, like, World of Warcraft, where the characters are, like,
Well, there are humans in World of
orcs or some
Warcraft.
shit. Yeah, but you pick a 7-foot tall green woman. You find that relatable.
Well,
which probably says everything about you.
But I'm not someone with these relatability issues.
Right. That is
like
true.
I don't have a problem playing Tomb Raider.
Right. The other thing that we were talking about yesterday is Genshin Impact and the gacha thing where you're spending a lot of money. Oh, sorry. Yes, you actually have more things.
I'll get back into the gacha stuff then.
Right.
So, yeah, most of this was just like to get onto like it's just like sometimes it's just like they need a mechanic. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And literary analysis.
Yes.
That comes into like you can do that analysis, and whether or not that's valid comes down to like how do you feel about death of the author, whether or not that kind of intent matters.
Right.
Because I think a lot of that stuff gets overanalyzed, but that's neither here nor there. It's like everything's valid, effectively. I don't give a shit.
Well,
you talked about
you continue first.
Responsibility for your own actions.
Yes.
So I think that's very true, but I think you also have to recognize how deceptive these are with. Just like casinos are deceptive, and you did talk a lot about that, about how you don't realize how much you're spending.
Yes.
So Genshin is probably the worst example for something like that. It's not the worst, probably.
Yes.
But it is right up there with like how confusing they make it.
Yes. So the question
for spending money.
Yes. So for anyone that's listening, it is Genshin players playing Genshin and pulling that gacha system. It's sort of like someone walking to a casino and losing money systematically. And the question is, when someone walks into a casino and loses money, is it the person's fault? Or does the person bear responsibility? Or is it the casino who bears responsibility, right? So in this sense, does Genshin, the game, bears responsibility? Or do the players who like overspend and like lose
both take responsibility.
Yes.
But I think the problem a lot of people have with Genshin is that it's advertised to children.
Yes.
And that is like gambling is not a great thing to be throwing onto children, and that's a big problem.
Yeah.
Actually, those mechanics have been banned in some European countries. Germany, they're banned, for example.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because they just said, this is gambling. What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
We're banning this stuff.
Yeah, you need a gambling license.
Yeah, so a lot of games, either they alter the mechanics or they just don't release them in Germany anymore, these kind of games. So I did some basic some basic math here.
Right.
To kind of show you the process for actually buying these roles to get these characters, right? So I said you're going to put $100, $100 US into the game, and that's going to give you 6,480 Genesis crystals.
All right, I don't know what that means, but keep going.
They give you it's currency, right?
Yeah. 6,000
Genesis crystals then get converted into primogens at a 1-to-1 rate.
Right.
Primogens then convert into fates, which are 160 each.
All right, I'm totally lost by now.
Exactly. Part of the trick is to go through multiple currencies because people lose track of how much the value of those currencies actually have.
Right.
That's a really important step that a lot of these, not all necessarily, but a lot of these have. They always have. It does not show you, 10 rolls for $10.
Right.
So you've got your so that maths out to $100 gets you 40 rolls. So you're then rolling, and the chance of you getting the max rank character, you want a specific character, is 0.6%. And then there is some, just for full transparency, there is a pity system. So if you do 100 rolls, 99 rolls, and you don't have a max rank character, they will give you guaranteed a max rank character.
Right.
So there is a fail safe. You can get nothing for a very long time.
Understood.
But that's over $200 of not getting anything at that point.
Yeah. So, and it's probably their way of like telling the customer, hey, look, here's a free lunch.
Yeah. So if you were to do. And then also, because it is 0.6 on your rolls, but if that's 0.6 of any of the max rank characters, my guess last time was that there were 6 characters, and that's correct.
No.
There's 6 max rank characters,
right.
So then you're dividing that by 6 again. So if you roll 40 times, you'd have a 3.88% chance to get the character that you want.
And 40 times $100.
Yeah.
So essentially you have a 1 in 30 chance, approximately. If you spent fucking $100 which is like 150 Australian dollars.
Yeah, and then it's done. Yeah, it's done, and it does all the gambling tricks that poker machines do: flashing lights, reinforcing, making it feel good when you get the thing, the unboxing animations.
So if this is
the rolls,
if it is
dramatic.
similar to a casino, like my understanding is, shouldn't it be regulated by a casino license of some kind?
There's been a lot of push to get it regulated.
Yeah.
There's been something in. The industry for a couple of years
now.
This
morning, while I was in bed, I was just reading the news about what's going on in China. Like, I don't search up any of this shit. So it's very, very interesting. These news
gaming ban.
Yeah, there's a gaming ban.
That's big news. Yeah.
have you heard about this, right? Like kids can only play for 1 hour
On the weekends, basically.
a day on a Saturday and Sunday, and that's it. They
It's
can't
3
play.
hours a week max now.
Yeah. Like, why do you think they why do you think they did that? Because it speaks to what I was trying to say, which is, does games help you scale Maslow's? Probably. And at least what they're saying is, for kids, maybe it's not. And it's
is
very,
that
very...
the concern?
I think so. I mean, it's
Because
very draconian.
I thought the concern... Well, yeah, I mean, it's China. No offense to China, but China gonna China.
Yes,
and they have a fair bit of that kind of restrictive, draconian stuff. Like, video games were technically banned on PC for decades. Like, they had,
I did not know that.
Like, you could get games on Steam. Steam is the platform on PC.
Yeah.
For some reason, Steam wasn't quite regulated.
Yeah, they just
with every other venue.
Yeah, they just didn't regulate Steam for some reason, but that's changed now.
Yeah.
But up until a few years ago, they just kind of ignored it. But they are cracking down on it.
Yeah.
Like, that firewall is getting more fiery.
Yeah. I mean, people get around it, but I mean, a lot of bans that happen in China are also like rather symbolic. Like, people get around things, but there's
a lot more
what do you think
personal accountability in China, right? Like, it's harder for you to use your parents' IDs in China. Like, if you play an online game in China, you need, like, name and registration, or, like, name and those kind of details, right? Like, I'm sure you can get around it.
Yeah.
But it's probably more difficult than it is in the West than just clicking, like, the yes, I'm over 16 button.
I think China's the land of the crack.
Okay.
They crack everything. So
I haven't been... don't have much China knowledge.
Yeah. But why do you think they did it? Like, I'm not even too sure why. I just read the news very quickly, and they said parents are very, very grateful for this. And it's not like they're banning it so the kids can study more. They also ban tutoring companies. I don't know if you know about this.
At the same time?
Yes.
Why?
Yes. So all of this comes down to, as I say, the one-child policy.
Mm.
So 5 years ago, they made a two-child policy. Turns out no one wanted to have 2 kids. Now it's 3-child policy. And the biggest problem, and no one wants to have kids. Maybe no one's fucking, I don't know. But no one wants to have fucking kids. And the issue basically is raising kids is too difficult. And
they banned it.
Life is too expensive. Like, living life is too expensive. Housing costs too much. Health costs too much. Fucking, like, food costs too much. Whatever. Everything fucking costs too much.
Yep.
And kids' education, it is straining parents because in China, these kids are competing with one another, and the only way they can get ahead is either through tuition or, like, learning other shit, or the parents, like, literally supervising them day and night.
Yeah. So that ban makes sense then. It's effectively trying to equal the playing field, right?
It is their way of making it easier for people to have more kids. That's the primary motivation. That's the primary motivation for basically all of this shit that's going on. And the interesting thing is, so there's 2 ways to think about it. One is whatever adults want, in terms of, look, if you go to the adults and say, hey, right now you don't want to have a second child, what is it that I can do for you to have your second child? And they say, one of the things you can do for me is, like, ban all these tuition companies, which is costing us so much money to, right? But the parents also say, look, you should ban gaming because my kids are, I don't know what's going on. My kids are becoming dumbasses, my kids have become disrespectful, or like, my kids are not doing very well at school, blah, 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 blah. Whatever, I don't exactly know. But the parents are saying, we want our kids to be banned from gaming, and that is one way that Chinese young people are willing to have more kids. Indirectly.
Sure, that seems, draconian is definitely the right word. Because the West had that similar problem. Like, video games in the West has been basically vilified for probably about 15 years, 20 years now.
Promoting
probably
violence,
longer.
all that sort of shit.
Yeah. It's like the Grand Theft Auto controversies, all that kind of stuff has been around for decades. But I think we ultimately fell on that as the parents' responsibility. Video games inherently aren't doing anything wrong. Like, put parental controls on your TV and your video game consoles. All the controls exist. You just need to enact them and enforce them. And it should be on the parents. Whereas China's saying, well, we don't want it to be on the parents. So we're just going to put this law in place to stop it.
Yes. And it's not just, by the way, it's not just games. So any apps that kids use in China, it's like after 12 o'clock, whatever, they just shut down. So there is So if you think about what they're regulating or what they're controlling, it's kids playing video games, but it's also kids using like entertainment apps.
Yeah.
It's all that coming together, and they're doing it, from my understanding, because parents want them to do it. Now, there is also one more hypothesis, which is that there's a new election coming up in China, and then every time the election comes up, the politicians want to look like they're doing the right thing, and this banning of or controlling kids' online content is like a big thing for parents, and if the government does it, then the parents will like them, then the parents will support their policies and vote them in. And yes, by the way, there is such a thing called a vote in China, so just let you know.
I knew there was a vote.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a real meaningful vote.
Well, only party members can vote, so it's like only 1 out of 10 people that vote. But those 1 out of 10 actually do vote.
I'm sure there's a lot of diversity in the votes.
No, there's not a lot of diversity in the votes. At the grassroots level, yes, there is, but at the very top, no. It's all rubber stamp, basically. So, yeah, just coming back to it. What do you think? So that's my reading of what the motivation is. What do you think is the motivation?
Where did you see this?
I saw it on 2 news media sources. One is Bloomberg, and one is a financial media.
Did they speculate on what the? Because I figured you might have seen it on Bloomberg.
Yeah.
Did they speculate on what they thought Western, like the implications for like Western video game companies would be?
Yeah, they thought it's gonna lead to more regulation of games in the West as well.
Yeah. So my initial thought on this was, one, I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
My initial thought was that sucks to be a kid in China.
Yeah, because it's 1 hour. Yeah, it's terrible.
That's going to be really bad. Because like for perspective, like most video games are not a movie. You're not going through a movie in like a week in that case. So like if you're to play like the new Final Fantasy game or whatever, like that's those games are like 90 hours long.
Yes. Oh, by the way, there's one more thing, which is kids are now mandated to do at least 1.5 hours of sports per day.
1.5 hours per day?
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It could, like, sports, it's all different types of sports, but basically they're meant to be in rigorous sports, but it probably just means like recess a bunch. But it's now in law.
Yeah.
So you can see where the government's trying to go with this.
Yeah. Trying to get the pasty kids outside. That doesn't sound great.
But I think it makes sense. So one of the biggest things they talked about is that men are too effeminate in China. And okay. I mean, I can tell you a lot about this because I only read it this morning, but they also banned online celebrity gossip. So it turns out
for China?
In China. So it turns out online celebrities have too much influence on kids, and 2 things are happening with that. One is people are creating all these lists and rankings of different celebrities, and it's causing people to essentially hate on each other. Like, you're like part of this.
It creates like a tribalism.
Yeah, creates tribalism amongst kids. And the other thing is that these celebrities, they aren't good examples. They, one, are too effeminate, which means they're just too feminine. They're not men acting like men. They're men acting like playboys, that type of shit.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that they are not sort of like not positive influences in the right way. They're not like they're not patriotic. They're not. They're just living their lives in. It's floating about as the way it's portrayed. So certain celebrities are being elevated. Those are more masculine, blah 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 blah, and patriotic. And boy bands, for example, one of the top shows about boy bands was banned as of today. Even though apparently half of it's already been broadcasted. Just shit like that.
Yeah. So
you can really see what's going on in China, which is they're trying to get boys to become more boys-like, but I don't know about girls. Nothing about girls, as far as girls have babies. Yes.
Right.
Yes. That's really what's going on, isn't it?
Yeah. So my perspective is basically after the sucks to be a kid in China.
Yes.
Especially if they have to do sports. 2 is basically the West has been bowing to China in ways that has made like our video games worse for a few years now. They've been like making changes, and the West sits there and
they do it
and
film.
say, but like in film they have like different versions of the games that get released. In the West, sometimes it's innocuous stuff. Sometimes it's like there was a game called Rainbow Six Siege, which is a multiplayer like shoot each other game. And there was some graffiti in the game that had like it was a skull and crossbones. And it was there for a few years, and then they changed it. Why are they changing that? And, oh, okay, China, right? Can't have the skull, can't have the crossbones there. Those skulls in China.
Right.
Because superstition or something.
Right.
Like
That is true. You can't have the word death, for example.
Yes. So they had to change the graffiti thing. That's somewhat like who cares? And there are different versions of games that come out in China, but there's stuff like. So there was a thing in Activision Blizzard in their card game. They had a tournament where one of the characters supported like the Hong Kong protests, and this company preaches progressive values and support for democratic things, and then that happened, and they immediately banned that player. They banned the announcers of the stream, and they just shut the whole thing down. And it was very clearly like they have to bend their knee to China here because it's such a massive market. It's such a big part of that company's revenue. They have to.
Correct.
They can't just not do that, even though it wasn't anything in the game. The company was clearly
did that ban
like
change the nature of the game?
No, it just pissed people off, and it showed
the company. It changed the company very much.
It didn't change the company, like because the company was already like that. They just tried to. It just showed the transparency of their like meaningless like. The thing they did when that happened, because they were catching a lot of flack, was that they said it was the most transparent thing. It was really dumb. It's still really dumb to this day. So they preach a lot of progressive values, things like that. So when they were getting hit by all this backlash, they came out and said one of the popular characters in one of their games was gay. That was their solution to the problem. It's no, we're
yes.
And it just fueled the fire more. But then they released a trailer for a new game and everyone forgot about it.
Right. But when you say, in the past 5 years there's been a big influence, Chinese influence on games, what influence?
It's stuff like that. I think
Right.
So there have been some examples recently. There was a game called Devotion, which was a small game made by a Taiwan studio.
Yeah, it's Taiwan, yeah, of course.
And it's like, it was about like Taiwan, it was a bad situation. But the problem was that like they released the game and it immediately got shut down. It got shut down on Steam, and then they went like more independent and tried to release it on another site. There's another place called GOG, which released like old games primarily, but they do have a storefront. And then they put up on Twitter, "Hey, this game Devotion, we're going to put it out." Then like several hours later, they took that down and said, "Yeah, we're not putting this game out anymore."
Right.
It was like stuff like that has a pretty big impact, where like things get shut down pretty quick, pretty fast if they don't follow certain narratives, and it's rare.
Yeah, but that has to do with fucking politics of it. I mean that.
Sure, but like
it's like a gay black Jew. It's like if they. I mean, I don't want to go into that. To be very honest,
I know what you mean.
Yes,
but like
they can do anything, and it's like controversial.
If it's like limiting expression, then people don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
Because it's just getting into this like, well, maybe that game would have been really good. I don't know. Didn't get to play it. Probably it didn't look great, but it's a horror game. It's not my thing.
Yeah, but I think as soon as you put it that way, it's very obvious. As soon as what I'm trying to get at is when you said China's influencing the game market, or the Chinese game market is influencing the international game market. I thought it was something beyond the politics of.
No, like when you think of how like they edit movies for China and things like that, it's generally you don't have to change the Western release for the movie.
Yes.
They add some stuff for like Star Wars. They change the poster a bit.
Yes, correct. And they plug a Chinese character in there.
Yeah. And
But I'll say, for example, TikTok is an example where like the game is totally changed by the way the Chinese market approaches social media.
Yeah.
Like there's no problem in. Don't they talk about TikTok bans, like implicit TikTok bans, which is like TikTok biases? You know how there's this idea of prejudice within artificial intelligence, which is because
I've heard of this,
because machine learning learns from essentially historical data,
Yeah.
it will tell you what is the best or what is the most ideal person for certain scenarios. Which is, for example, you can easily get a machine learning algorithm to say, hey, identify me an individual that I can help in succeeding in getting a job. And it'll go, okay, well, I found this, upper middle class guy who maybe he's white, maybe he's Asian, I don't know, maybe he's Indian or whatever, and he comes from a private school, blah, 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 blah. That is your best chance, and so it essentially reinforces stereotypes. Yeah. And with this TikTok algorithm, it sort of does that, right? Because what it does is it takes a look at what people enjoy and what people are addicted to, and it reinforces addiction. That's literally the problem with TikTok, because there is a ban of fucking TikTok in China. Like, not a necessary ban, but there is a big ass control over its algorithm and how it's being deployed in China, and it's considered national security risk at the moment by how it's they don't want it to.
Do they not just have like a different version of the app?
That's one of the reasons why the Chinese version and international version is not even they're not connected, they're totally independent.
Yeah.
Because they don't want things that are addictive in the West to essentially just suddenly flow into China. But it's also the other way, which is they don't want things that are of a Chinese nature that might be very sensitive in the West. And there's a lot of things in China that's very, very sensitive to the West. One of them being Taiwan.
Yeah.
Like how they I think like 2 months ago when there was that Taiwan or Hong Kong incident, and there was about Tibet, right? Tibetan cotton. Yeah. Like in China, everyone's pro Tibetan cotton, but in the West, like everyone's like free Tibetans.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, they're not even Tibetans. Sorry, the Muslims, Uyghurs.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So TikTok, and the other one's League of Legends. I don't know if that has any influence on.
Well, they just hired. I mean, Tencent just bought out Riot, and then made them make. I can't remember the name of it, but it's League of Legends for China. It's not League of Legends. It's Heroes of something, but it's made by Riot. It is League of Legends, just the Chinese version.
Yeah, I feel like they are.
My understanding, when Tencent buys a lot, they're big investors in video games.
Yes,
and they
3D animation.
Yeah, but my understanding is for that stuff, they tend to be pretty hands off. Like they don't seem to come in and put mandate. If you're doing something on Taiwan or something, they might get a bit more hands on, but they generally just let people do whatever they want. Well, I haven't heard any stories of them investing in a company and then that company having to change anything that they're doing or the ways that they're doing anything because Tencent has now a large stake in the company.
Yes. I mean, I think the idea that this is probably beyond this conversation, really. There's really two types of influences coming from China. One is the market, the Chinese market, and the other one is you want Chinese government or social policies. Because the Chinese market in some ways is more advanced than in the West. The technology and its influence over there in some aspects, like it consumes your life. You can have a mobile phone and that's it. It's just sort of like Japan in the 80s and early 90s when they already had, the touch screen and touch phones and all that sort of stuff, and they were just totally in a different world. So the Chinese market in that sense may have a more mature tech market, and when you talk about games, in some respects might have a more mature gaming market. My understanding is, for example, in China, the 3D animation market is actually in many ways more advanced than the West.
For games or for movies and things?
For games and movies. So a lot of games, the 3D animation is actually now produced in China. So all
all the like Marvel stuff, all that stuff's done in China.
Yes, because it's literally just better, more advanced, cheaper, and the market for 3D animation in China is huge. It's huge. It's their way of beating like the traditional anime, right? And it's already coming out. You just don't know it. It's already out. It's them producing animation or 3D animation in our Western films. it's their impact is already felt here, and soon they just have to smack a new brand and a different name or title onto that film, Chinese title, and you realize, oh shit, it's a Chinese film. You also realize that just from looking at all these films with, at the very, very beginning, they'll have different studios and producers on it, and now you just see all the time the lead studios like Wanda Films or Alibaba Films or Tencent Films. You already see it. It's sort of like Sony buying Columbia Pictures.
Yeah, I think that's been like that for a while. I don't know how much of a general audience pays attention to that stuff.
No, they
because
don't. Yes.
Like cartoons, even just like traditional animation, not 3D, has been outsourced to China for a pretty long time now.
Yes, there's a couple of 3D animations. I didn't know until it was on Netflix that it was just entirely made in China. I thought it was like made by Pixar or some shit, but I can't think of what the name is right now. So that is the influence of the Chinese market. It's literally, we're watching Chinese animation, Western films, 3D animation, because the Chinese production of 3D animations is actually quite appealing and it's quite good. But the other part so we might not even feel, we just know it's a better product. But the other aspect of it, of Chinese influences, Chinese social policy and government policies, and that might be changing very, very soon. So this morning, or last night I read, get this, you use the GPS. I don't have no idea that we're talking about games anymore, but I just want to tell you about it.
I'm out of notes anyway.
Right. So yesterday I was reading about the American GPS. Do you know, out of 200 nations, how many... There's not just a GPS. The Chinese have a system as well. The Chinese version of GPS. It's called like BBS or some shit like that. I'm being serious. 200 nations in the world. 200 nations in the world, right? How many nations do you think use GPS over the Chinese BDS? Like in Australia, we definitely use the GPS.
Is BDS exclusive to China?
Yes.
I'm going to say that we're like, I don't know, 180?
You're totally right, actually.
Okay.
85% of the world use the Chinese GPS over the American GPS.
Because it's more accurate or what?
Because it's more accurate, and it turns out all the phones are essentially like, yes, all the European countries, not even the European countries, only the Western European countries, it's more accurate, and the phones that people use have the Chinese BDS system on it already. So in Ethiopia right now, there's food delivery apps. They use the Chinese BDS system. Isn't that interesting? So like we don't feel it, but they're definitely there, and it was built for military purposes and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know why we're talking about this. Oh, I know why we're talking about this now. Because this gacha system. There's one thing in China that's very, very interesting to me, which is people that love gambling. And
yes, true.
And I thought to myself, is it because you were quite upset at how pervasive it was? But in China, it's like maybe they don't give a shit as much because gambling is part of the culture,
Yeah, I mean, gambling is seen as a vice here. Like you touched on it in your discussion with Ray, but gambling is seen as like, it is on that like, why would you gamble? Why would you smoke? Why would you drink?
Yes.
You can see kind of why someone would do either of those things, but they might have that vice.
And in China, you do all three at the same time, and that's called fun. That's the definition of fun in China.
That's the trifecta.
Yes.
But in the West, like all of those things, especially more recently, gambling's kind of always been seen pretty poorly, but like especially recently, like drinking and smoking is very much like is looked down upon. People will give you dirty looks if you are smoking on the street these days.
Right. Yes,
for
I agree
gambling,
with you. Yes. And so that's why.
But it's not good.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask, which is what the other question I was going to ask was, what types of because games influence life and life influence games, right?
Sure.
And the question is, when one plays Genshin Impact, I said there was a good side of it, which is there's a moral good aspect of it, which is it makes you value family potentially. Literary interpretation out there. But what are the bad influences of it? If there are, like, for one means one of it is probably, you don't mind having these gacha systems in your life and potentially taking risks, right? Because you're pulling this gacha system, and 1 in 30 times you win big, right? And potentially, if people tell one another and spread the rumor, oh, I pulled a 1 out of 30.
Yeah.
It causes other people to want to do that, and it sort of creates this gaming culture of risk taking.
That is true. Like, just this morning, as I was just like doing the daily grind of Genshin, I had at least 3 of my friends just like pop into my world just to show off the new character that just got released.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I go back in, I probably expect that to happen. Probably a lot more.
It's bad. I don't like this.
Because of the future, or
like,
what it could
even
happen,
beyond the future, you can look at it now. You can look at it now and say, like, your people.
But who do you blame exactly? Do you blame?
I blame the people that buy it and spend the money.
Yes.
Because there is.
So they're the ones responsible.
Both are. Like,
right.
if the company didn't implement the system and enable these people,
yes.
they wouldn't have it.
Yes.
And I'd have a better game that I'd actually be willing to fucking play.
Yes.
But because it is the way that it is,
yes.
I don't want to play it. It's just like the system just drives me away. But most people don't have that big a problem with these systems.
Yes.
Because
so if they don't have a problem with it, then it's not causing harm, right? Or
it's making the game worse.
For you.
For everyone.
Right.
Like, if you looked at it...
From your perspective.
No, for fucking everyone. If you look at it,
yes.
and you just said, look, that new character, how many hundreds of dollars do you want to spend to get that character?
Yes.
Because that's what you're looking to spend.
Yes.
And you know how many hundreds of dollars you're spending to max that character out? You're not doing that without spending literally tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
You're going to need to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to actually upgrade that character to have them be the best that they can be.
Right.
And that's just talking about the character. That's not the weapons. I would just pay $15 and have that character.
Wait, but
like, that's reasonable to me. And $15 for a video game character,
yes,
is actually pretty expensive.
When you pay $10,000, is that for that character? Is that character like a fight better?
It will make them stronger.
All right.
It's like
so
you can get the new character he's talking about,
yeah.
because it's a new character, they promote them and give you a slightly better chance to roll them. So that
yes.
pity system,
yes.
basically, if you get a 5-star character,
yes.
on that when that character's new, there's a 50% chance that character will be that character, and if you don't get it that time, the next 5-star character, that character's guaranteed. So you're only looking at like 180 rolls,
yes.
only 180 rolls at $40 for 10 rolls.
Right.
Sorry, $100 for 10 rolls,
yes.
for 40 rolls.
What a sale.
Matt. Yeah. Then like only 180 rolls, and you're guaranteed to get one
yes.
of that character, and that's worst case scenario.
Right.
But like that's still, you're looking at hundreds of dollars to get that character.
Right.
Hundreds of dollars.
So would I be right
Thousands
that you are telling the podcast game universe to, ban?
Gotcha? Yes.
Yeah.
Look at it like this. They had a summer event a while ago.
Yes.
I can't remember if I've talked about this before. I've definitely complained about it before. They had a summer event where they put 2 of the characters in swimsuits, 2 of the girl characters. These games are propped up by the people that spend those thousands of dollars.
Right.
Most people don't spend that much.
Right.
But there are some people that just dump money into it because they have no control. That's the problem with these systems.
Right.
But this character... So, like, they gave you they had a different costume for them because it was, like, beach themed, so they put her in a swimsuit, and then they put the other character in the swimsuit, but you only got one of them for free.
Right.
So the other character, you had to buy it.
Right.
It was $30 to buy this costume.
Right.
That's fucking ludicrous.
Oh,
that is the price of... you could buy multiple games. You could buy the best game, like, in 2019's best game was only, like, $30 when it came out.
Right. Or you could buy a swimsuit.
Yeah, you could buy multiple real swimsuits. How much are
Yes.
fucking shorts? It's like, it's insanely priced, but people will pay it. Like, enough people will pay it because they're not stupid. They're running the numbers. They know that $30 is going to drive a lot of people away.
Yes.
But enough people are going to get it. You're going to sell at a profit.
Yeah, so this was the other thing that I spoke to Ray about yesterday. And I really have thought about this, which is, whom are these people that buy $30 digital swimsuits?
I mean,
whom are they in real life?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I know a couple
because
of people.
If they are dangerous motherfuckers, I prefer them buying digital costumes for $30.
So the only example I've seen is like streamers and things like that.
Yes.
Spending like thousands of dollars in games because they don't give a fuck. Because they've just got money and there's nothing to them.
But if the streamers, they also have an audience, right?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Right.
But I would have thought that watching someone spend thousands of dollars to get characters would have turned people off.
But you watch thousands of people eating thousands of calories, and it's perfectly entertaining, and that's okay?
What? Am I watching people
I don't know
eat?
if you're fucking watching, but you know what I'm talking about.
I don't watch mukbangs. No.
Yeah.
No. I think that is like weird.
So the way I'm thinking about it, I might be wrong, which is...
What?
I personally don't think it's that weird, because it's the whole parasocial relationship building thing.
I don't know. I've just seen it. I've seen like 2 mukbang videos.
But I'm told
and I was like, this seems weird. I don't quite get it.
I'm told the initial motivation for these stories, for these mukbangs, is not because you're any. It's not.
It's companionship.
No, it's not. What I'm saying is, it's not. It doesn't come out. It did not originate from the kindness of one's heart. No. It was to see young, pretty women stuff themselves.
Yes.
And then, because then you know they'll have to vomit it out later. That's my
understanding. I did not know about the second half.
Yeah.
Okay.
That you're watching people intentionally hurt themselves, and that gives you some type of joy. That's what I'm... Oh, look, I'm not an expert in this, but I've definitely read this somewhere.
My understanding is that if you throw in pretty ladies to anything, it will just work out somehow, including eating food. And that's how half of these things originate.
I don't disagree. But now it's moved beyond just pretty ladies eating a lot. It's like you watch anyone eating a lot, and it's just become this, this
social phenomenon.
Yeah, this social phenomenon. And where I'm coming from, my point of view is what I told Ray, which is, if my dad was to drink, smoke, or gamble, I prefer him to gamble. In terms of taking risk with his own health and life. Now, in terms of risk takers in general, I rather people take risk for all types of reasons, and some people are naturally risk takers. Now, between a guy, let's say,
why do you think gambling is the best?
I'm not saying the best. It's the worst.
Why would you say that's your preference?
Right. It's the worst of all evils.
Why?
Because all you lose is money, and it keeps you out of trouble.
What happens if you lose all your money?
Oh, then you're fucked. So you gotta put them
exactly.
in the box.
But then you're basically caveating that with I hope he doesn't lose all his money. And
well,
the way
he can
gambling
lose.
Works,
he can lose up to a certain amount, and then I can probably still.
Sure, but let's remove other people from the equation for the sake of it. Let's assume that you can't help this person. If my brother or something got into financial debt, I'd be sitting there saying you can stay at my place.
Yeah, but what? But what choice do you have? You only have these choices: let him drink to death, let him.
But all of those are
drugs to death, or let him gamble to death.
But all of these are I hope he doesn't get addicted and die.
Yes, it's true.
And I think that gambling. I think gambling is the deceptive, maybe front runner of this might be the worst.
Yes.
It doesn't have these obvious negative health side effects, but it is designed specifically. It doesn't have the chemical dependence either. It is designed in every way to try and get you in that addictive mindset. They're doing everything that they can to get you addicted, and I think that's, I don't know, it's just the aspect of it that really puts me off.
No, I detest that as well. But what else to do? Sorry.
No, I'm just gonna make a side tangent. So you guys first finish.
That's mostly it. I just think it's really hard to box it as the worst. I've worked in pubs. They had pokies there. Seeing the people come in and blow through their entire the olds come in and blow their entire what is it
the savings, whatever fucking is it?
Not the savings, but the weekly monthly government allowance. They come in and blow it in a day.
Yeah.
And it's just it's just depressing. And I've just seen it so much.
Yes.
And I've seen a lot of people drunk and acting like idiots, but it hasn't made me gut wrenchingly just sad. Seeing these old people just throw money away. Come in, spend all their money in a day, and then leave and have nothing.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for me to distance myself from that because of personal experience. And I've had people die because they've smoked and drunk for their whole lives, and it's gotten them killed. But it really felt like they knew that. They knew the whole time they were doing it. They knew.
So you're saying that these old ladies, pensioners, they play these, pokies that they don't know that.
I think there's a level that it's not quite conscious. Whereas I think most people that drink and smoke will tell you drinking and smoking is bad, and they know it's bad, they're just addicted. But I think people that can gamble can genuinely just not think it's a problem a bit easier.
Yeah.
Because it's just, there's no chemical that you're putting inside you that is negative.
I would say you can smoke in a group and you can drink in a group, but you probably can't gamble in a group.
I mean, you can gamble.
Yeah, that's what I said. If it's mahjong, then I think it's okay. But mahjong, you smoke, drink, and gamble, and I think it's probably healthier than if you were to do it alone. Yes, of course. You do it with a group of friends,
Pretty hard to play mahjong. I guess you can go to.
Yeah, people do it. But sorry, Ray.
No, I was just gonna say, the more you speak, the more it seems the gambling situation sounds very similar to donating to streamers.
I think donating to streamers is weird. That's me.
It is weird, but it's somewhat of a new thing as well. And like it feels like the behavior is like, I'm not gonna say mirror, but it's very similar to one another.
Well, it's similar in that when you're donating to a streamer.
Do you know what we mean when we say donating to a streamer?
Yeah, you give me money for a streamer to stream.
Yeah, effectively. It's just like, it's basically a donation because the person will say your name and say thank you. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it's. I think that's more of just creating that that emotional.
But isn't that what gambling does as well?
I think the streaming stuff is the parasocial stuff.
What's parasocial? What the fuck does that mean?
It's where people will watch streamers or YouTubers and believe that this person is their friend.
Yeah.
But this YouTuber has no idea who this person is.
Yeah.
And it's like they have this idea that they have all these friends. They have these streamers they hang out with. Sometimes they can pay their streamer and they'll say their name. But it's this weird kind of new phenomenon where
but it's the same as controlling a celebrity, right?
It's basically having a quote-unquote celebrity talk.
Yeah, it's to have an influence over an influencer, right? To have some type of influence over a celebrity.
But it's not even to have any kind of influence. Like the parasocial stuff can happen on YouTube where there's virtually no feedback whatsoever, where this person will not acknowledge you ever. But you've seen this person so much, you've watched so many of those videos, you feel like this person is your friend. You feel like you know this person. Even though, a lot of the time that this is that person on the behind the camera is like a personality of some kind.
Yeah, so this is the other thing that they banned on children, which is apparently in China, children would give money to celebrities.
Yeah.
Give gifts, which they buy to celebrities, which I suppose those gifts are then converted into cash of some kind. And that is a big phenomenon.
Yeah, because to go to the streaming stuff, these streamers are millionaires, generally multi-millionaires. When you're giving them $10, they don't need this money. You're not giving them that $10 because, man, that person's really struggling. You need to help that person out. How are they going to get by the next month? But you're giving it money because they're going to say your name and you create.
But are they making millions because of these $10 added together?
Typically not. Most streamers get their money from sponsorships.
Right.
The vast majority of money from streaming is from sponsorships. I think because Twitch takes 30%, and then there's just
who are these people that are giving money? Are they young people, old people? I mean,
it's a pretty diverse demographic at this point. The cynical answer is that it's incels giving money to women showing their butts on Twitch.
Right.
But that's
incels?
Yeah, involuntary celibates.
Oh, fuck.
People that can't get laid.
Right. I thought it was people doing incel as in they are in the system and they're promoting traffic.
No. It's
okay.
Sweaty nerds. But that's not actually, I think, true. That's a pretty small portion of it. It's basically just the people that don't have friends, don't go outside too much, spend all their time watching these people, and they just get their mom's credit card and pay them. But even then, it's the streamer that I've been watching recently, and I don't watch streamers very much, but this guy's, it was kind of a big deal that he started playing this game.
But do you pay him?
No, I've never paid a streamer.
Okay.
I don't think I'd have a problem with it, for the record, depending on the content, but because I have a YouTube subscription, so when I watch YouTube videos, they get a bit of money, which I think is reasonable. If Twitch had that same thing, I might do that same thing, but I don't watch a lot of Twitch. My issue is just that I don't enjoy streaming content very much. But this character, I lost my train of thought. Why was I jumping into this?
I don't know.
Fuck.
You're watching the streamer,
You're watching a streamer.
and you don't mind watching him, but you don't pay him money.
it's before that.
New game. What was before that?
Doesn't matter, I guess. I lost my train of thought. Let's go.
Right. Actually, I don't mind having a conversation maybe next time about these game streaming and what people do.
Not much I know about.
Right.
I genuinely just I find the content boring, to be honest, most of the time. It's just too slow for me. Like if it's a game, I'd rather play it myself. But someone's opinion on it, I'd rather if it's. I just don't respect most streamers' opinions on things. Usually, it's because they're.
I think
if they're not paying because they're streaming at the same time, they're not paying attention to the game.
Yeah.
So I think they have a pretty bad view of what the game actually is because they're doing two things at once.
Right.
And their 80% of the attention is on chat and the stream, not the game.
Right.
So like if I'm there to try and get an opinion about the game, I'm not going to a stream.
Right. I feel like if I was 13 years old, I turned on my PC and I saw someone that was like myself or a better version of myself or whatever, or someone interesting playing a video game, I probably would be interested as well, you know, because when you're 13, you're just interested in everything, and most importantly, you know, you meet kids at school and, you know, those are just 30 or 50 people that you meet, and suddenly you meet someone totally different online, talking very, very interesting things. It can be quite addictive. I mean, but you never try and like. It's gonna sound weird, but you never try and live vicariously through these streamers or whatever. That's
no,
not within.
I think that is a lot of it though.
Yes, but that doesn't inherently appeal to you, which probably
no. It's like the streamer I watch. Like you've seen me watching probably a couple of Twitch streams, and it's usually like one guy, and it's just because
I have no clue who you watch.
It doesn't matter. It's just one guy, and it's because he plays the game Final Fantasy 14, and he's really good at the game, and he knows a lot of the mechanics.
Wasn't the bald guy take that? Yeah.
And he's just like he spends like most of his time just explaining things in the game. He doesn't actually play it most of the time. He just stands around in the game and explains mechanics.
Okay.
And explains like.
And he has a loyal following.
Yeah, it's just. But that's also like he's also like a personality too. He's also good at the streaming part of it.
Right.
Being good at a game does not make you good at a streamer. So like, there are people that are like world best in the game, like have world first titles or that kind of stuff, and they'll stream and nobody watches them because it's not entertaining to watch.
Right.
If you're watching someone who's like really good at a game, then they're not paying attention to the chat. There's no interaction.
Yeah.
You're just watching someone play the game. Most people have no interest in that. Right. You have to be interacting with the chat to some degree. You also have to be doing it constantly because the average attention span is like 7 seconds.
Yeah. All right. Well, coming back to the idea of risk takers, I'm far happier for risk takers to be doing it safely, because if it so happens that a risk taker, you know, if you're just pulling gacha systems, that's okay. But if you don't have gacha, so therefore, you know, you start taking risks with your life or other people's lives in the real world, then I'm not okay with it.
From what you understand, is gacha better than gambling? Better or worse?
I think there's 2-3 things. One is a casino. You can't walk in unless you're 18 or something like that.
That's much.
A casino is also regulated, so those games and activities, someone actually takes a look to see if there's any perverse incentives going on. But at the same time, this gacha, you're saying there's 10 million people that play it. Now, if a game has 10 million people all playing it, and you know the game is neither being shut down, nor are players like systematically complaining about how terrible this game is, then I think a lot of the responsibility probably lies in the gamers. So that's the way I see it. So if a game is like a casino, I think it probably should be regulated like a casino just to protect people. But I think no casino has 10 million, you know. But
that's only because they don't have that kind of reach.
The game or who?
The casinos.
Yeah. They're not. They're prevented from that type of reach.
Yeah,
for
video
very
games
good reasons.
Video games are, especially these systems, are very, very new. They're
Yeah.
very new.
Yeah,
that regulation is going to come.
It's come as in with China, right? With the idea that
No,
Kids can't even play games now.
No, I think it'll. I think
they
it'll
tried
be the
to
system
regulate
itself.
loot boxes.
Yeah, loot boxes is just another name for gacha, effectively.
Effectively.
Right.
But like there is a lot of talk in regulation now. It's already like it's come into the U.S. court system before. It'll come again.
Man, I should just like start an online casino and not have any fucking regulation, right?
EA is a big company. EA Games.
Right.
They had to like testify before the Supreme Court and justify their like loot boxes.
Loot boxes for what?
For all of their games, basically.
Whatever. Really?
Yeah, all of their sports games.
Right.
They all have loot boxes of some kind. It's like,
Wow.
hey, you want to get players for your team? You want to get Ronaldo? You want to get Messi? You got to roll the dice. You got to get it.
Isn't that interesting? So,
the reason I think it's worse, by the way, is this currency conversion system. In a casino, you have pretty on screen how much money you're spending. With this stuff, I don't. Off the top of my head, if I'm doing a 10 roll, I couldn't tell you. And that's like 10 Primo Gems, which is whatever Genesis crystals, and then that goes back to a dollar amount. You just lose track of
So
it. I just don't know how much I'm spending.
It's so interesting. So
I think that makes it a lot scarier.
a lot of video game companies and a lot of video games are just legalized gambling.
That was one of the arguments.
A lot of, yeah.
It's still up in the air. Or has the verdict been reached about loot boxes and gambling?
The loot box stuff.
I never heard the end of it.
For the US, for like EA, I don't know. I think they had to put some restrictions in place, but they didn't stop. It's too much money for them to stop. But they will stop when they absolutely have to, and they will stop. They will fight tooth and nail to not have to stop.
Yeah.
If they have to stop selling it in Germany, cool. No soccer in Germany, whatever. Like the physical sales of the games is nothing compared to the money they get from people, like buying the rolling for like characters.
Yeah, I never realized that until today, but I think you're right. Well, yes, the system is just a loophole to allow casinos to be established.
Yeah, I mean, there's casinos online and they have regulations. Like, they just need to put these regulations into these video games. And I'm not someone that's generally for regulations, but the stuff is running unchecked at the moment, and it's really being a problem. It's a really big problem. It's a really big problem that kids can do this and spend money like this, and there's no protections involved.
And then they get addicted. And that addiction carries throughout the rest of their lives, to be very honest with you.
And this is aimed at children.
Yeah.
It's
Games
really
of chance.
fucking bad.
Yeah. Games of chance, right, is the biggest problem that human psychology has. Like, you don't know whether the expected outcome is positive or negative. You just know that the feeling of once in a while winning is addictive and you like it because you're programmed that way. You're programmed that way just biologically. Yes. It is quite interesting. Do you foresee those that get addicted to gacha systems becoming like bigger risk takers in life?
I don't know enough about the psychology behind it.
Right.
I don't know if somebody that gambles a lot, if they're more risk, like prone to risk. I don't know.
I mean, is gacha just inherently more appealing than, say, a physical casino?
I don't know about more appealing.
Given the choice, because there is an aging demographic, and once the demographic has officially hit that age, but I don't know what that age particularly is, and given the choice between heading to a casino versus rolling on whatever game they prefer, I would likely believe that they lean more towards game because that game would probably be more focused in on their particular likes.
Maybe that's just trying to predict trends in the future, though.
Yes.
I don't know. You could say that about a lot of things. Like, are movies going to fall off because people spend more money in games now? Games are more played than movies for certain. So does that mean the movie industry?
But sometimes consumers wake up and realize they're con.
Sometimes, but that's what I mean. It's like any of these things that are popular with younger people now in 40 years could become the dominant thing in casinos, could be relegated to really small. Here's your casino. It's an office floor and with some pokies and a crabs table or something. I don't know how that will play out.
This is where I realized something, which is I started from a point of ignorance, and I am nowhere far from the original point. Like, if I had some data in front of me, I feel like I could be more informed of the situation. I have a lot of questions in my mind, but without that data, I get what you're saying. $100 gives you 40 rolls. 1 in 30, yes. But this whole idea of a podcast of trying to learn about games without doing any homework seems quite self-destructive and self-defeating at this moment. I just have a lot of questions in my mind.
That's kind of the point of this.
Well, if you want to,
No, I really don't want to.
I'm like a systems person.
Yes.
So like when I see bad systems, that's the thing that affects me the most. It's like a good game is like I play a lot of great games. I play a lot of games that I think that I can tell you about and why I think they're great.
Yes.
But if you ask me like you want to talk about games, it's like, okay, cool. Here's this stuff that I have concerns about.
Yeah.
It's like that's the stuff that's on my mind a lot of the time.
Right.
It's not because when I'm playing a game, it's escapism effectively.
Yes.
And it's fun and it's all I need to think about. But then if I'm playing a game, like if I'm playing Genshin and then this stuff comes up, and it's like, ugh.
But at least you're smart enough and have a psychologically healthy enough brain to realize, hey, this thing is dangerous. This thing's gonna dupe me. It's, Alice in Wonderland, the fucking rabbit tunnel type of shit. It's gonna bring me to this, La La Land and make me feel really, really good, but actually it's gonna bankrupt myself,
Yeah, I don't want to drag it out much longer than it is, but I saw on Twitter today, Genshin released like this new character pack and had like a content update, and I went through a thread where somebody said like, this guy I follow on YouTube, you should play this game because it's really good. It's a single player story, and it's like one of the reasons that these gacha mechanics can succeed so much is FOMO, where they can. Do you know what FOMO is?
Fear of missing out.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Okay, you should know that. But anyway, there's not a lot of FOMO in this kind of stuff, and that is to its credit. There's really not much in the game that you will miss, so you don't need to spend a whole lot of money right now, which is another big thing that a lot of companies do. It's like, this thing's going to go away in 2 weeks. You need to roll, and you need to get this thing now. You need to spend your money now.
Like sense of urgency.
Yeah. So that's the thing that this game doesn't push too much. But in the comments,
it's there.
It's a little bit there, but compared to other games, it's actually quite low. Even non-gacha games, like a season pass, that's fun.
Fair enough.
Right?
Game does shiny little baddies.
Yes, and a season pass is totally an industry standard at this point. Don't worry about what a season pass is.
Yeah.
But even in that Twitter thread, you saw a lot of people saying like, I'm and I, and like, should I try this game? I heard it's got this gacha system. I don't like that. And you see so many people coming out saying like, you can totally play the game for free. Like, there's no reason you need to pay. You can totally play the game for free, and that's true. But most people spend money in this game. At least a little bit of money. Yeah. And then it's supported by these big people. And the catch is that, like, I don't think people can recommend this game to people. I would never recommend this game to people. Because if you just happen to have that spark that gets hit with that addictive trigger, because they'll give you the rolls for free.
Yeah.
And if those free ones, like, trigger that spark, and that causes a fire, you're fucked. And I think
it most likely will. It's built so that
it's built in. It uses all of those gambling triggers. It tries its absolute hardest to get you addicted to it. And I think that's real wrong. But you still have people defending it, like tooth and nail.
Who defends it?
Anyone that's just like really likes the game. If I was maybe not as perceptive as I am to these mechanics, and just like, I don't want to spend money in this game, whatever, and I just played it through, then maybe I'd be totally for recommending it. So be like, what the fuck's this person talking about? Like, you don't need to spend money to it. Like, the story's free. It doesn't gate content behind, like, you needing to pay any money.
That is true.
You can just do it.
Yes.
Like, just fucking don't spend money. It's not hard, but that's like telling the person, just don't drink anymore.
Yeah.
It's fruitless if it doesn't affect you.
Yeah. Like, things that are inherently addictive, you're not, the whole point of it is self-restraint may not be sufficient.
Imagine if a casino gave you like $100 to play it like whatever you wanted to for your first visit. That would get a lot of people into casinos, and that would be real fucking bad.
that is
effectively
essentially what's happening.
Yeah, that is basically what's going on.
Yes.
And really,
it's like
rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, if a product is addictive, then this is equivalent of like a drug peddler saying, "Hey, I'll give
first
you
hit
some."
is free.
Yeah. That is so interesting. So, yes, so that's very interesting that we talked about this Genshin Impact. So, yeah, maybe you guys want to.
That's all gacha games, though.
Yeah, basically, it is. Genshin's just blew up in a way that gacha games don't. As far as public, I know that like they make a lot of money and they have this massive mobile audience, but the gaming landscape as a whole, this was different.
Yes,
this is the first like big game that has these systems.
That's on mobile.
Yeah, and that's why you think gotta have more games like this because it's just so successful and you know there's no regulation. You might as well make your money now, right? Sooner or later it's gonna be regulated.
I'm kind of surprised that there isn't like shittier clones out of Genshin right now. I'd expect it like at the speed it should be out by now.
Games like Genshin take a long time to make.
Not shitty ones.
Breath of the Wild came out like 5 years ago.
Yeah, but we're not making Breath of the Wild. We're creating like shitty mobile games. That
people can tell shittiness. Really, I know that you play a lot of gacha games, so you're a little immune to shittiness. But like,
that was meant as an insult.
Yes, but you talked about like China and games, and I didn't say it, but like China makes trash games.
Yeah.
Like their games are like they can make really good looking games, but the games always play like shit.
Right.
They don't have things optimized well. They don't have the nuance of how things should control very well.
Yeah.
Some of them knock it out of the park and do really well, but a lot of them they're just not very good in these really lots of little small ways. I think that's the problem. Genshin came out and it knocked it out of the park. And I think if you try and replicate it and you try and do it on the quick, on the cheap, it's not going to take off for you. And a product like that is a massive investment.
Alright. I'm just thinking that previous behavior a president has dictated that it has happened with every other gacha game where like you have a very, very, very basic mechanic and then you throw a gacha system onto it. And then once that works out, people will start making clones of it.
How do you mean? What?
Let's simply look at...
Most gacha games are cheap to make.
Okay, I'm literally thinking of Fire Emblem Heroes and Fate Go, basically.
Yeah, those are cheap to make.
Were they?
Yeah, they're like 2D, like they're not a massive 3D world with
yes,
all
and
these...
that's what I'm saying. Like because it was so cheap,
the combat system
in that case, it was so cheap to make.
The combat system is just it's stats going against stats. There's activeness to it, but not much.
Yes, and the mobile market is basically flooded with games like that.
Yeah.
And my assumption is that within this year or next year, the mobile landscape will be flooded with like Genshin clones, which will be much shittier than it. It won't be as expansive as Genshin, but you know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying. I think it's unlikely. It's the reason Genshin is so notable is because they went all out and actually made a very good massive game. Like this massive world with like this huge environment that's super detailed and fun to move around in. But they didn't have to. They could have made gacha trash, and they would have made...
Which is what was expected of it.
Yeah, they could have made a 2D, these teams slap each other until a team wins. That's the expectation, because that's so much easier to make. It was that thing I mentioned before with, like, why would Blizzard spend all the time to make an MMO when they could make Hearthstone? Because they can make a JPEG that says 3 and 2 for attack and defense and release it, and it makes, hundreds of thousands of dollars for them.
It did.
It's so much less work to make those like phone gacha games than it is to make a game like Genshin. Why would you take the risk? Because you don't need many people to get addicted to spend huge amounts of money. And most gacha games are designed to be played on a most gacha games are designed with a pretty limited lifespan, that they try to generate a bit of buzz before they come out. They come out, they make a bunch of money, they stay up for a year or two, they close down. Game didn't take off, didn't matter. Yeah. And then only the ones that really take off, your Fate Goes, your Fire Emblem Heroes, if they take off, they support them because they're fucking keeping to make money.
Yeah.
But most of them, they just come out and then shut down a couple of years later.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and it's calculated. There's not much risk. The only risk is maybe it'll take up and do way better than we expect.
Which is a very strange risk to have.
Yeah, it's not really risk.
It's
It's gambling.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, like, it's gambling, and they're rolling the dice that it could be one of the ones that just happens to take off.
Yeah, fair enough. It's very strange.
Oh, look at me. Yeah, I got lost in that conversation. But
No, that's fine.
Yeah, it's good. Sign
well,
off.
I feel like it is about time we signed off. I have no idea how this is gonna sound, but yeah, you can figure out what background music based on this, or you can edit it.
That's looking at 120 minutes. It took me like 7 hours to edit an hour.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you very much for this conversation, everybody, and whoever is listening. I don't think. Are we ever gonna release this? Like, what can we release this on? Is there any podcast that we can actually release on?
I thought we could just put it on Slack as Office Ramblings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Missing the Office? Here, watch me drone on about gacha mechanics
but
for 3 hours.
But can this actually be released on my podcast?
I mean,
Apple Podcasts or Spotify?
For free, yeah.
You can put it on YouTube for nothing.
Yeah. Alright. Well, we'll put it on there and get banned.
For background music.
Background music. For all types of reasons.
Yeah.
You know, there's politics. There's we're hating on all types of people and streamers and.
Sony will find a way to ban the video.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, my name is Joe Delicious, aka Hot Dog. I have
AKA Gun.
aka Gun. Sorry. Then we got Byron, and then we have Ray Ray, and the three of us have been doing this for 1 week and a half to try and keep coronavirus entertaining. And I have no idea whether we're succeeding or not. But anyways, till next time. Bye bye.